Well, welcome back to the When I Heard This podcast. My name is Nate Robbins, here with Pastor Joseph Tillman, MDiv, soon to be Demon. How are you doing today, sir?
Today, I'm doing tired.
That's a thing that you can do, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Cool.
But
why?
Up till 4 a.m. working on dissertation stuff.
I feel like the beginning of every episode now is I have to do homework.
Well, yeah. So what's wrong with that? That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty.
And I'm
much.
like, aren't you 40 something?
Right, I am, and
yeah,
I'm 45 years old and still doing homework.
Yep.
So, yeah,
anyway.
my kids even ask why I'm still in school, and
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you don't know, nobody knows.
No, that's true.
Okay. Today we're talking about being fruity and multiplying.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Fruitful and multiply.
Cool.
Somehow we're gonna have 2 episodes based just on that phrase. Because I sat there too long writing questions.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see if it makes it 2 episodes or not.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
No, it's totally gonna.
Okay. We'll see.
Or I have to cut this part out later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to Patreon, $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast, and X and Locals at When I Heard This. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. Website, t-shirts, notification bell, tell your friends. Be fruity and multiply. It's in the Bible. Do it. Here we go.
Okay, well, let's discuss it first in context. Telling people just go do it. Yeah.
Okay. First question is, what does the phrase be fruitful and multiply mean?
To procreate.
All right.
That's
very good.
Yeah.
What does procreate mean?
To reproduce.
Okay. All right.
For humans to have kids. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Or for, I guess, any animal to have babies.
Okay.
Yep.
You brought your kid today, so no further questions.
Oh, God. Now I'm a little concerned about later on questions.
Okay. Where in the Bible does it say to be fruitful and multiply?
Okay. So I think most people typically think of God's command to people in Genesis 1:28 to be fruitful and to multiply.
Okay.
But it actually starts 6 verses prior to that in verse 22, where he actually tells the animals of the sea, and then the word's translated fowl, but like it's actually a modern day Hebrew word for chicken.
This is Genesis 1?
This is Genesis 1.
So right off the bat.
Right off the bat, yeah, fruitful, multiply.
Go have sex. Now. Do it.
Yeah. And so in verse 22.
Right after he makes everything, he's like, go make more things.
Right. So verse 22, he says, God bless them. And this is, again, referring to those that are in the seas, the birds. He says, be fruitful. God bless them. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. So
just the birds.
Thus, yeah. And again, it's some translations will translate it as like the fowl. It's, again, modern day Hebrew word for chicken.
Okay.
So, and then on verse 28, he tells humankind, who he's made in his image, same thing. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every creature that crawls on the earth. And then we see this repeated several more times throughout Genesis.
Okay.
And then you finally get to Genesis 9:1, and same thing is said again in Genesis 9:1, where God is talking to Noah and Noah's descendants. And
right, because he killed everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got to be fruity and multiply again.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like starting all over again. Yeah, so it's literally the same thing. God blessed Noah and his sons, said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
All right.
Yeah, and then there's another passage in Leviticus where God's just once again telling the people of Israel, be fruitful and multiply.
Or he'll kill them.
No. That part does not follow. But it's about going into the land. So once they get into the promised land, be fruitful, multiply, have kids.
Okay, so be multiply or go do a multiply is vague.
Multiplication's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how much multiply are we talking?
Okay. Like how many kids?
Yes.
Are you talking about like for everybody or for like each individual person or every married couple?
Whatever.
Okay. And I think that's one of the things to keep in mind, because in Genesis 1, when God gives the command, he's not giving it to like just like one person or two people. He's saying to all of his creation, go be fruitful and multiply.
Okay.
So there's not like this hard mandate of like, all right, every couple needs to go have X number of kids.
Okay, well, that's too vague for me to know what to do.
Have kids, be fruitful, multiply.
No.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about those that don't be fruitful and multiply.
Okay, so there's no hard number. Just do a thing and make more stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Fill the earth. Not every individual family. But
how fill the earth? How full?
Doesn't say. There's no specific numbers on this one.
What about other planets?
He didn't say fill other planets.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
So if we start overflowing the earth and have to go to Mars,
are
we sinning?
No, there's no prohibition that says you can't go have kids on another planet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and so, so in Genesis 1:28, I actually want to look at this because I want to look up the Hebrew real quick. All right. Yeah. So, and actually, you know, the Hebrew word that's translated earth there really just means like land.
Okay.
So it's not like specific to like this earth.
All right. So why does God want us to do this? And why does he want there to be so many of us?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me, and I know we mentioned the idea that being fruitful and multiplying was also connected to the animals.
Yes.
But let's make this specifically about humanity.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the passage there in Genesis where we just read from in verse 28 about the be fruitful and multiply, in Genesis 1:26, just right before that, God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, the whole earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth." So God created man in his own image. He created him in the image of God. He created them male and female. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it." And so the idea of being fruitful, multiplying is actually connected to the fact that we're image bearers. And so what God is saying is, so God has created mankind after his own image, go fill the earth, and therefore my image will be throughout the earth.
Oh.
Yeah. So so there's a direct correlation there or connection between the image of God and going and being fruitful and multiplying. So we're actually, because like animals are filling the earth, right? But they're not made in the image of God.
Right.
Humanity made in the image of God, we fill the earth, and image of God goes throughout the earth. So it's really about reflecting the image of God throughout the earth.
God really wants to see himself more.
It's all about his glory. Yeah, so maybe we should do a whole episode on, is God egotistical or not?
That'd be good.
Yeah, because he's also about glorifying himself.
He made us just so we would
glorify
him.
Well, not just that we would
Which
like him.
Which is what a lot of parents do with their children.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Though. Yep. So yeah.
Terrible.
Well, let's do it. Let's do an episode on, is God egotistical?
God said to be fruitful and multiply.
Uh-huh.
And then he got busy and made Jesus.
What?
His son.
What? Okay, keep going. Let's see where this goes. Okay.
And then his son came to earth and did not be fruitful and multiply.
Uh-huh.
So if Jesus didn't do it, why should we?
Okay, so I've got so many things I feel like I need to address in your statement. All right, so number one, so Jesus has always been. Okay. So he's eternal.
All right.
So God didn't get busy, quote unquote, and have a son, Jesus. Okay.
All right, whatever.
So no,
Jesus didn't have any kids. That's the point of the question.
All right. I just want to make sure people understand that. So God, so the Father, Son, Holy Spirit have always been. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So, but in regards to Jesus coming to earth.
Yeah.
All right. So you're right. He never had kids. And yet in Matthew 5, he says that he actually came to fulfill the law. So
what does that have to do with not having kids?
So my point being is, him not having kids wasn't a sin or wasn't anything wrong, because he still was able to fulfill the law.
What?
Okay. Well, I just want to make it clear. So all right. So one, Jesus not having kids was not seen as sinful, because he still fulfilled the law through his life. So my point being is so God's command to be fruitful and multiply, okay, was obviously not a binding command of, if you don't do this, you'll sin. So my whole point is just on this one thing is, so Jesus was not in sin by not having kids. Okay. All right. That's all I'm saying. All right. And on that one point.
So why didn't he make God like him more by doing what he said and being fruitful and multiply?
He didn't need to make God like him more.
Whatever. Why didn't he do it? Why didn't he make more Jesuses?
Well,
why wasn't there a Jesus Jr.?
I think that there's a couple of different things. Number one, so Jesus has for me, it goes back to the idea of why was Jesus never married?
Okay.
Right, because that's the starting point, right?
Okay.
Got to be married, have kids. I mean, you don't have to be married to have kids, but
right.
Obviously for Jesus
probably would have.
Jesus to be sinless, right? So why did Jesus never marry? Is kind of probably the going back to question. Okay. And I would say two things on that. Number one, that Jesus had a specific mission that he knew he had to accomplish. Okay. And so therefore it was a singular focused mission, and he was about that mission. But then number two, Jesus already has a bride, and the bride's the church.
Okay.
And I know that's just he's using that as like an analogy, but throughout all of Scripture, following Christ, it's always, we're always the bride. The church is the bride. And so Jesus, all of that would have fallen apart in the analogy if he actually had a physical bride.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't like.
And we are his kids, or are we his bride?
We're his bride. Yeah. The church is referred to as Jesus' bride. It's kind of gay. Is that what you said? But in Ephesians 5, in Revelation 19, we're the bride.
So does Christ. He have a metaphorical child?
Well, not well, and this gets to the whole Trinitarian aspect of things, right? Okay. Because obviously we're known as the sons and daughters of God.
Okay.
And so Jesus is God.
So we're God's kids and Jesus's wife?
Well, but remember, this is all analogy stuff, right?
This is some incesty stuff.
Don't think too hard on it, Nate. Don't think too hard on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Was that a good answer? I was about to say, because we're also referred to as the first, as Jesus is the first. Jesus is referred to as the firstborn among many brethren. So we're also Jesus's brothers and sisters.
Oh, so he married his sister
and his bride,
and his sister is his dad's kid. Well, that would make sense. So Jesus married his sister.
This is where I knew we were going to get in trouble. Okay, so yeah. All analogies. That's all I was going to say. All analogies.
This is messed up.
Yeah. Well, this will be their episode. All right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We need to do a family tree. We need to map out a family tree here.
That sounds good. Let's yeah.
Well, he married his sister, but his sister is kind of a guy.
What?
Because some of us are men,
right
down here,
right.
So, wow, let's get into a lot. It goes
yeah.
deep.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
So we are trans.
No.
Okay.
You're don't you're thinking way too hard through all this.
I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell just for thinking it. But it's recorded now.
Maybe.
Whatever. I'm just trying to figure things out.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I answered the question.
I don't.
It got so far off. I'm not sure what happened.
I don't know anything at this point.
Did I mention I'm tired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
All right. Okay. This is the next full question.
Okay.
All right. I have heard. Okay, so church people sometimes say that sex is not supposed to be fun, and that you're only supposed to do it to make more children. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
No.
Why not?
That's false. So, and obviously, individuals that think this will point back to the whole Genesis 1:28, be fruitful, multiply. This is just like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, procreate, fill the earth, do that, right? So that sex is all about procreation, not about pleasure. Will be the argument that they'll make, right? But then the problem is that throughout Scripture, we see that sex is not seen as a one, a bad thing, or two, just a procreation thing. I mean, Song of Solomon, we have a whole book in Song of Solomon or Song of Songs that's all about it's a bride and a bridegroom. It's a story of a bride and bridegroom, and it's their kind of their engagement leading up to the wedding, and then after the wedding day, and then there's the consummation of the marriage, and it's all seen as an honoring, godly thing. And all of that is in the context of not just having kids, but the pleasure aspect of it. Because Song of Solomon is very descriptive in language.
Song of Solomon's a romance novel?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's basically...
I've read it before, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, because there's just certain passages in there that are very, sexually explicit. Chapter 4. Now, if you read through all of it, there's some things in there that you're like, okay, that's kind of strange. Like, you're probably not going to refer to your wife's neck as, it's beautiful, like the Tower of David, right? Like, that's not language we would typically use.
Tower of David.
Right. And so, but then it goes down in, verse 5 of chapter 4, your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle that feed among the lilies. But the whole point is that there's this very sexually descriptive language throughout Song of Solomon that's invoking this idea of pleasure.
Okay.
And so you have that, and Solomon himself, speaks about in Proverbs about, enjoy the breast of the wife of your youth. And so again, it's
what?
Yeah, you never heard that passage before?
No.
Okay, let me find it real quick.
The Bible wants me to enjoy boobs?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's. I
don't want to go to hell anymore.
Hold on 1 second. In Proverbs chapter 5, beginning verse 18, let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth. As a loving deer and a graceful doe, let her breast satisfy you at all times, and always be enraptured with her love. I'm not even sure what translation that was, but
wait. So fountain, is that a metaphor? May your fountain
be blessed.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be surprising because Song of Solomon, again, gets descriptive.
He was like super horny though his whole life, right?
Well, at this point, we don't see the absolute depravity that we see later on in his life.
Oh, okay.
But the point being also is this is scripture. Like this is inspired scripture that God wanted.
That's inspired.
Yes, that God wanted in his holy book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so actually the idea of having sex and enjoying each other's bodies is completely God honoring and glorifying in the context of marriage.
That was the best answer yet.
Good.
So, be fruitful and multiply is in our Christian Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So, if non-Christian people get fruity and multiply, is that a sin?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so because Genesis 1:28 is a universal command.
Okay.
So he's speaking that to all of creation. Like, go be fruitful, multiply.
Okay.
And then, obviously we hear it again after the flood and with Noah, be fruitful, multiply. So no, it's not just a Christian command. Non-Christians should be fruitful and multiply as well.
Okay. Is this like do I have to be in a certain like frame of mind to do this, or is it just, hey, get married and make some children?
From mind.
Like, do I need, what reason should I be doing this? Because it like, you know what I mean?
Why should you have kids? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying, well, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Like, should I be doing this with God in mind?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or should I be doing it just because he told me to? Or
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me as a Christian, so we have 3 kids, and so for me as a Christian, obviously so there's a personal level where I just wanted kids, okay, and I think that's completely legit. Like I want kids. So my wife and I, we have 3 kids. Like we wanted kids. I think that's completely legit. But I also see it as the fact of that, hopefully they will know the Lord and that they will be image bearers of God in the earth as well. And so that they will be lights on the earth as well. So there's definitely, I guess for me, it's like 2 parts. Like there's the personal part where, I wanted to have kids. My wife wanted to have kids. So we had kids and we're grateful that we were able to have kids. We had our own fertility stuff at first. And so where it took us a while to have our first 2. And so I'm grateful that we were able to have kids. And so that's like a personal desire. But then, also there's the aspect of, man, we're following the Lord. We want them to follow the Lord. And obviously we know we can't control that, right? We can't make them do that. That's their choice. But, as of right now, they are, and we hope they continue to, and that they would continue to be image bearers of God on the earth. Okay. So, so I think it's, so you talk about your frame of mind. Yeah, I think.
So what's the wrong reason?
The wrong reason?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm,
The one thing that kind of I think a wrong reason would be I want to have a kid so I can get money.
Huh? Okay.
So I'm thinking of, and I'm not talking about necessarily even like government assistance type thing. I just if you're an individual and you're like, hey, I want to ensure that I quote unquote kind of entrap somebody to where I can get child support from them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And have a child for that reason. That would be like a wrong reason to me.
Right.
So. But do you have anything else in mind?
Okay, but if God told me to have children, wouldn't that be okay though? That's what I'm not.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I'm not saying like the child themselves is wrong or sinful or anything like that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the motive behind it.
Yeah.
Was
okay. Yeah. So I don't have if I don't.
It's not like you
have somewhat of this is a mandate from God in my mind.
It's not like you're walking around with cursed kids or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Parenting is super hard and kids suck.
I mean, parenting can be hard.
Yep.
Kids don't suck.
So why would God mandate that everybody do this thing that's super hard? And, why would he mandate that everyone do it in the off chance that some really dumb people are doing it for all the wrong reasons?
Right.
and making some really dumb kids.
Right.
And just like, is that good? Does God think that that's good?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know what you mean.
Yeah. Like when you drive by a you know what I mean?
I don't know. Yes, I know what you mean. Okay. All right.
And then God told him. God told him to do it right there at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, you asked me several questions in there. All right. So, one of the first question I think you asked was, should people be having kids, or why would God ask parents to have kids when parenting is super hard, as you say? And parenting is hard.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. However, I think that's, to me though, yes, it's hard, but man, for me, the joys of it they far outweigh how difficult it may be at times.
Okay.
So I mean, and you love your kids. I mean, so for me, I think that, yeah, there's not like a second in my brain that I'm like, man, this is just so hard. I wish I would have never had kids. Like that thought's never occurred to me. And I'm not saying if that thought has occurred to you that you're a terrible person. I'm just saying that I think the joys so far outweigh the difficulties of parenting.
Okay, so why would God tell everyone to do it when some people just aren't capable or ready or whatever?
Right. And I do think that's like, those are some legit questions of just, because again, all of this was supposed to happen in the context of marriages and in families, right? Mm-hmm. So an individual was never supposed to, like, and again, we're talking about the ideal. The ideal was that, an individual was not supposed to raise their child alone.
Right.
And definitely not outside of the context of a larger family and community to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the things that in our Western individualized culture, it has made things more difficult because we don't always live right around where our family lives now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for example, we live close to my wife's family. Man, that's a massive help. I can only imagine how, because we had one time we had 3 kids, 5 and under.
Yeah.
And that was a hard season, like having 3 kids, 5 and under. So it was very hard. I can't imagine doing that without, like, my mother-in-law's help, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been really difficult. And so that was a hard season for us, but we did it in the context of family. But now with the way that so many people move around, they don't live, close to parents and other family, and they're doing it kind of quote unquote by themselves. I think that's really hard. I think the old adage of it takes a village, to raise a child is really true. And I think that's what makes it, 1, not as difficult, and therefore 2, more enjoyable when you're doing it together. And so I don't think we were supposed to just be individualized by ourselves, but I also understand the fact that you have some people that are just, they seem, whether they're just immature or whether they just don't seem to have the capacity to do it well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there. And so, however, that doesn't mean their kids are going to, it's not like we just write off their kids immediately because they're having a hard time parenting the children. So I think there's, so many individuals that have come out of difficult situations or with maybe not the best parenting, and they're thriving in life. So I don't think it's always a 1-to-1 correlation with that.
All right, I'm going to ask you the same question, but worse.
Okay.
All right. So this is hard to ask. 2 people with Down syndrome, but worse.
Okay.
Whatever the official, whatever is makes them worse than that.
Okay.
Get married.
Okay.
Should they be fruitful and multiply?
Yeah. If you have 2 individuals and they get married and they have children, nothing wrong with that at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, this is where that family context really matters, right?
Yes.
And so this is where having that larger family to help would be a significant need, obviously. And so, but no, I don't think we should prohibit people from having children.
Okay.
Yeah.
But God wants that? God likes that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Be fruitful and multiply.
Be fruitful and multiply.
What about people that will because you can pass down, what's it called, Hep C, when you have children, or HIV?
Yeah, or there's a lot of genetic issues. Yeah, right. I mean, there's genetic kidney issues and right. Yeah, sure.
So if you know that but those are like genetic. These things are stuff that you got later.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have those, should I be fruitful and multiply if I know that I might kill my child with AIDS?
I don't think there's maybe a clear cut like wrong or right. I think you've got to really consider the consequences of your actions, and not having children would not be a wrong thing to do. Okay. But if individuals had children,
but God told me we have to.
No, he didn't say how. Well, okay, but you're now invoking that principle to every individual. And what I'm saying is every individual wasn't called to be fruitful and multiply.
Okay, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
All right.
But all of humanity as a whole was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So as long as someone down the street has
the 16 kids.
Has 16 kids.
It makes it for the block.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as humanity as a whole is multiplying, then we're good.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Well, that's a better answer than some of the other answers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have to narrow it down. So to I don't every
individually have to kill my child with AIDS because the person down the street had 16 kids.
And I won't even say it's because the person down the street had 16 kids. But yes, you can choose not to have children, and that's perfectly fine.
I didn't realize we were going to get so ethical with this either, but I keep thinking of things to ask you about.
No, these are good questions. Yeah. I mean, these are real questions. I mean, there's a reason in seminary. I mean, there's a whole class we took on biomedical ethics. So, yeah, because there's a lot of ethical things to consider when you're discussing biblical and theological topics like this.
Okay, so in today's society, being fruitful and multiplying has gotten really damn expensive.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
yes.
So how are we supposed to do this when it's like financially next to impossible?
I won't say that it's financially next to impossible, but excuse me. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's gotten very expensive. Again, 3 kids, 2 of them teenagers.
Yeah.
In my own house, our food bill every month is insane. I cannot believe what I'm paying in food every month. And so you're right. It's expensive. And then you add on top of that clothes and school supplies and doing any kind of extracurricular anything. Mm-hmm. It's expensive. And so
you can tell them to just go raid the church pantry.
Right. Pastor's kids, right? Go get some chips. And some
animal crackers.
Right. And goldfish.
And some little wafer things.
We're not stealing the communion stuff. There's a limit to it.
You told us.
That's why we use grape juice. Okay, so But no, it has gotten expensive, and I think it's a real issue. And I do not think there's anything wrong with saying, "Hey, we can only afford to have a couple of kids, or one kid, or whatever the number is," right? And saying that's that's it for us. Like we cannot continue to have children, and because we can't afford it,
right?
Like there's nothing wrong with saying that. And again, this goes back to the whole principle of the idea that God says, be fruitful and multiply. It's not a direct command to every single individual person. That's a command to all of humanity. So
that's a good thing to make clear.
Yeah.
Because all of my questions were
in that
I have to?
Right.
Because I haven't.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, so I think that it's okay to say, hey, we're like financially, here's our limit of what we can do. And I think that's okay. Perfectly okay. And, you know, and people do that by various means, whether it's, you know, birth control or whatever it is, or the different types and forms of birth control.
Abortion.
Not that one. Bad option. Wrong option. Don't choose a sinful option. Okay. That would be that sinful option. So I think that it's completely fine for people to, again, have those limits. And again, throughout the world, this is happening. You know, when I'm in villages in Guatemala, you know, you'll notice the families only have a couple of kids, and they're doing all this without birth control.
Yeah.
And so they're having to make some very, you know, intentional decisions. The couples are of when they have sex and all of that, because they're having to be very mindful of the fact of we cannot afford to continue to have more kids. And so I think it's a real issue throughout the world, and God completely understands that. And we're not being judged because we're going, oh man, we have 5 kids. We got to continue to be fruitful and multiply, but we can't afford the 5 we have, much less add on any more to that. So
people in America really suck at pulling out.
Yeah.
Like, it's an epidemic.
Yes.
It's true.
Okay.
It's so easy. Just do it. I don't understand. Anyway.
Well, all right. We'll let Nate have a whole episode on that or something. I don't know. All right.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to say something. I'm going to keep it.
No, what do you got?
I'm good.
Okay, so this question's going to probably lead us into next week's episode.
Okay.
There are people who cannot have children because their bodies don't work right.
Right.
I have a really hard time trying to say these things nice sometimes, and what the correct way to say things are.
Okay.
If you haven't noticed.
Yeah. You're doing okay.
Okay.
You're doing okay.
All right. So how are these people supposed to be fruitful and multiply if they can't?
Yeah. And obviously there's different levels of it, right? And what I mean is, like, because some people,
a video game,
like, because some, or severities, I'll put it that way.
Oh,
because some people, their bodies do not. For example, a woman may not be able to naturally ovulate,
right?
But with fertility help, she can be able to, right? So so medical can get involved, you know.
Yeah.
And I know we'll get into all the IVF type stuff next episode. And so I think that, but if you're a couple and you cannot have kids because your bodies just simply will not allow you to, you know, because of one or the other, or sometimes it's even both, then there's no shame in that. There can be heartbreak in that, because I do know a couple that's their situation, and there's heartbreak in that, and so, like, and my heart breaks for them, because if, you know, I think if you're a couple and you want to have kids but you can't naturally have your own children, that can be heartbreaking. But it's not sinful, it's not shameful, it's not, You're not like disappointing God or anything like that. And I think that's one of the things that, unfortunately, in some circles of the church, we've almost condemned people for not being able to have kids naturally. Yeah, so I don't want anyone to feel like if you can't have kids that you're somehow, in sin. And so, in regards to how are they supposed to be fruitful and multiply when they can't?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Because if they find out that they can't, then they were trying to.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that gets back.
And so they want to be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
So what are they supposed to do?
Obviously there's the disappointment, and there's the sadness, and there's the grief of it. Then I think you start examining all the options, and let's say either you can't do something like IVF or it's too expensive. Mm-hmm. And even things like adoption can be too expensive as an option for some people. And so,
what if none of it works for you?
Yeah.
And you still want to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah. Then, and I think this is, and obviously, if you're doing a clean read of Genesis 1:28, you're like, if you're an original hearer, what I mean by clean read, if you're an original hearer to that, you're only thinking about physical multiplication, like your own kids. However, when I look at it again, and I see the connection between image bearers and children being being fruitful and multiply, filling the earth with the image of God, then as a Christian, one of the things that I can do is, come up alongside young people and be like a spiritual mentor or a spiritual mother and father to, young people. And in so doing, you're actually causing, again, that idea of the image of God to spread throughout the earth, because you're walking alongside those people. Like, one of those fascinating stats to me is that for your generation, I think it's over 1/3 of young people end up staying in church because of a connection they have with an adult who's not a parent. And so there's something about that, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's so many broken homes, that if you're you're a stable couple, you're loving Jesus, you just have a stable life. And by stable, I don't mean perfect. I don't mean you got lots of money. I don't mean there's nothing going wrong. All I mean is that there's a stability in the marriage, right? And that, therefore, I think coming in and being able to walk alongside young people, especially those that have come out of broken homes, you're not necessarily replacing mom, dad, that kind of thing, but you're able to just walk alongside them and mentor them, and then they become image bearers in the earth. I think that's a direct correlation and connection to what's being addressed here with the idea of being fruitful and multiplying, connecting it back to the image of God. I mean, even for me personally, every Father's Day, I have a few people that text me that say, "Happy Father's Day. Thank you for being a spiritual dad to me." And so that's okay. And so, but and especially for people that I've known since they were really young, and walked with them through kind of life and their journeys, those kind of things. And I don't take that for granted. Like that means something to me. And again, not that I'm trying to replace their parents either, right? But you're just trying to be a positive spiritual influence in their life. And so, yeah.
Never mind. Okay, so I was going to ask you this question, actually, though.
Okay.
Is converting people to Christianity a form of being fruitful and multiplying?
Again, we're going beyond the plain reading of Scripture.
Yes.
But what I was getting to earlier with the principle of seeing image bearers on the earth, then yes, you could make a tie-in between this and, for example, the Great Commission in Matthew 28:19 and 20, where Jesus says, "Go, therefore, make disciples of all nations." And there can definitely be a connection between those, where yes, you are spiritually, if you want to put it this way, being fruitful, multiplying by seeing, because I would want to say that it's more than simply just leading someone to Jesus. It's they come to Jesus and then you walk with them, you know. And I understand. Excuse me. I understand sometimes all we're doing, you know, is able to lead someone to Jesus. That's the context for it.
Yeah.
I can lead someone to Jesus. I can't. They live somewhere else or whatever. And I've done that before with someone that has come to our youth camps. They come to know Christ. You know, they're flying back to Texas. There's this one young lady. She came to our youth camps. You know, a cousin of somebody, and she lives out in Texas. She got saved at one of our youth camps, and years ago. And just this last youth camp, this past summer, she's now married. Was there, and she was just kind of crying over just the reality of, hey, I was saved here at this youth camp, and that's what it transformed my life. You know, I'm following Jesus now. She's married to someone who's going into ministry. Like, it's a cool story for her. But yeah, you can look at that and go, wow, that's, you know, being quote unquote fruitful, multiplying, seeing people come to know Christ, and especially coming from a family, for her, coming from a family that weren't following Jesus, right? And so that was for me. I think you can definitely make the connection there that when we lead people to Christ, or we come up alongside them and disciple them, there is a fruitful, multiplying, you know, connection there. Sure.
So, beginning of the Bible was, we need some more people, and then beginning of New Testament was, we need some more Christians.
Yeah, actually, you want to preach that sometime?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
More sex. Looking at you.
Yeah.
I'd be good at that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should have you up there with me and you just make random comments at times.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that would go. But...
I could be the No, I don't want to do that. Preach, Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're going to have to learn to play the Hammond if you're going to do that. So.
All right, well, Fruity 2, multiply harder next week.
Your language for this stuff is just very interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah,
we have fun
good.
here
Yeah.
at this when I heard this podcast.
True.
Well, go to Patreon, $5. You can like, subscribe, share, and comment. Why? Follow, download. Tired.
Brain.
Go to Patreon, $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast, and X and locals at When I Heard This. Tell everyone that you know about the show, and ring the notification bell, and tell everyone that you know about the show.
That was terrible.
Oh, website. $5, subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at RevJoT, and you can follow Joseph on Instagram at
Nate Robinson? I don't know.
When I Heard This Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao.